Students, this is Mr. Smith, and I'm going to be sharing with you another Math Facts Strategies video. This is the video called Squared Facts, and there's actually going to be two videos on this, and this is the first one, so you're going to make sure you watch this one first, and maybe do this one several times if you need to get these squared facts underneath your belt, so to say, so that you memorize them, and that you know them, and you can figure them out. So squared facts are facts here that I could use arrays. As you can see here, I have 4 arrays written up here. And this first array, as you can see, has a square around it. This next array has a square around it, and the other two also have a square around it. And here's an example of a squared fact, which is 4 times 4 equals 16. So, what are squared facts exactly? Well, they're that. I take an array such as 2 by 2, if you remember 2 rows, 2 columns, and if I make an array out of them, I could put a square around them. So 2 times 2 happens to be a squared fact. 3 times 3 happens to be a squared fact. 3 rows, 3 columns, and when I make that, it makes a square shape. Same thing with 4 times 4 and 5 times 5. 4 rows by 4 columns, 5 rows by 5 columns. The same is true for the rest of these. And yes, you can see 1 times 1 happens to be a squared fact. And I'm going to show you that here, that if I have 1 dot, it has 1 row and it has 1 column. So 1 times 1 happens to be a squared fact. These other ones are also squared facts. 6 times 6, 7 times 7, and so forth. Now, what is it that you notice about these that make them unique, that make them having a pattern to them? Well, I'm going to share a little bit of information that I notice about this, and I'm going to bring my highlighter out here. I notice that this number is the same as that number. So the number of rows in my array is the same number as number of columns. So 3 times 3, so they're all the same, you'll notice. 6 times 6, so that's how you can identify a square number, or a square fact, is that the first number is the same as the second number. Now, with these first 5, we typically know these pretty well. 1 times 1, I'm going to change my pen here. That one is, of course, 1. 2 times 2, I think that's one that most of us we understand and know. That one's 4. 3 times 3, a lot of us know that one pretty well. That one's 9. 4 times 4, that might be the trickiest one of them. So this might be one that you do want to think about and recall and memorize and practice by saying 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 4 is 16. Just keep doing that. That's one method that you can do it. You could write it out to remember it. And moving on to the next one here, 5 times 5 is 25. Now, for these other ones on this side, this can be a little trickier sometimes to memorize these. And one of the things that I remember for memorizing 6 times 6, or trying to figure out 6 times 6, is that in the answer there is a 6, and it goes in the ones place. So when I look at this, how many 6's do I have? Yeah, there are 3. So I remember 6 times 6. The answer is 3 6's, 36. That's how I remember that one. I've heard some people memorize the next one, remember the second one, with 7, as if I were to write down my 7's in a straight line, and you can see a straight line here on top, that 7 times 7 is 49. So the rhyme that they use is 7 times 7 in a straight line, 7 times 7 is 49. Another rhyme that I've heard for the next one, 8 times 8, is 8 times 8 fell on the floor, picked it up, had 64. So it's kind of a unique way to remember that. So you can use rhyme, you can use what numbers look like up here, so the 6, 6, and 6, so 3 6's. You could do the straight line to remember that 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 fell on the floor, picked it up, had 64. For this next one here, 9 times 9, I've seen some kids remember it this way, where they did 9 plus 9, and when they did 9 plus 9, that equals 18. So they would get 18 for their answer, which is true that 9 plus 9 is 18. But remember, we're not doing 9 plus 9, are we? We're doing 9 times 9. So they took what they know about 9 plus 9 because it looks similar. And the answer actually looks similar too. If I write down 18 and if I flip it, that happens to be the answer to 9 times 9, which is 81. So it's kind of a unique way that I've seen kids remember that. And for the last one, 10 times 10, well, I can think of it without the tens right now, or the zeros in there. So pretend for a moment, and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to change my color to get rid of some of the color that's here. And I'm going to just make you think about pretending that there's no zero there, just for right now. So I'm just going to kind of white out that one, and I'm going to kind of white out this one. So I want you to just think about this for the moment as 1 times 1. And we already know that 1 times 1 equals what? Yeah, it equals 1, doesn't it? So 1 times 1 equals 1. I'm going to remember that in my head. 1 times 1 equals 1. I'm going to bring my tens back. And I'm going to put that 1 down over here because 1 times 1 equals 1. And then I'm simply going to take the 0 right here and move it over to this side of the problem equation, and this 0 right here and move it over, and I now have my answer, 100. So 10 times 10 is 100, and I think of that as 1 times 1 equals 1, and then my two zeros get to go over there. So this is squared facts, and I want you to remember that squared facts simply mean the first number and the second number are the same. 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3. So these are squared facts. And for the most part, these first 5 here are pretty easy to think about and remember. It's these other ones over here that you want to try to remember. So see if you can try to remember how you do 6 times 6. So 6 times 6 has, and 7 times 7, we're going to do what? 8 times 8. And then how do we remember 9 times 9 and 10 times 10? This concludes this video on our squared facts, which is squared facts video number 1. We will have a squared facts video number 2 to help you with another strategy to figure out other math facts.